Hey, it's Medium Jenny Lee. I'm here with another raw discussion video. We are on session 38. Let's see what we have in store for us today. All right. Will you tell us if there would be any hope or any purpose in either Jim and I taking the instrument's place and attempting the trance work ourselves? Well, I think Carla had a lot of physical issues, and they're always worried about her well-being, and I think this trance stuff really took a lot out of her. So at this point, it's March 13th, 1981. They've done 37 sessions, and they're at the point where they're wondering if maybe they can take her spot. Ross says, the information is on the borderline of infringement upon free will. However, we shall assume your desire to constitute permission to speak slightly beyond limits set by the Confederation guidelines. At this space-time nexus, neither the one known as Don nor the one known as Jim is available for this working. Don, shall we say, practicing the mechanics of contact and service to others by means of channeling, would be in a certain length of your time become able to do this working. So it would take a while for Don to be able to do it. The one known as Jim would find it difficult to become a channel of this type without more practice, also over a longer period of time. Then we should have to experiment with the harmonics developed by this practice. This is true in both cases. So it would take Don a while, it would take Jim a long time, and even after that it would take some finagling, and who knows how long that's going to take. So then Don asks, I would like to know if the reason the nuclear energy was brought into this density 40 or so years ago had anything to do with giving the entities that were here who had caused the destruction of Maldek another chance to use nuclear energy peacefully rather than destructively. So remember, Maldek is supposed to be a planet that was between Mars and Jupiter, right? Mars and Jupiter is where our asteroid belt is now, because that's what the asteroid belt is. It's this planet, Maldek, that got done blowed up. It done blowed up because they blowed it up themselves. And so the spirits, the souls from the entities, the physical entities that were living on Maldek needed somewhere to go, so they came to Earth and they began out as primates. Some of them are Bigfoot. And then what's getting ready, and that's as far as was explained. They came back after a really, really long time of being stuck out in space and having to essentially be stuck in a knot of fear for a really long time. The Confederation was able to get them finally. They went through a long period of healing, and then they all decided that they needed to work off their karma. So they came to Earth to continue their existence as primates and Bigfoot. Okay. This is incorrect. And that places cart before horse, as your people say. The desire for this type of information attracted this data to your people. The desire for the information attracted it. It was not given for a reason from outside influences, rather it was desired by your peoples. From this point forward, your reasoning is correct in that entities have desired a second chance, which you mentioned, which suggests that some of those Maldek people are not just Bigfoot, is what I was going to say. But it was like calling it in, wanting to have that type of information. What was the mechanism for filling the desire for information regarding nuclear energy? The mechanism was what you may call inspiration. Okay. Would an entity impress the person desiring the information with thoughts? Would this be the mechanism of inspiration? The mechanism of inspiration involves an extraordinary faculty of desire or will to know or to receive in a certain area, accompanied by the ability to open to and trust in what you may call intuition. I wrote neat here. Why did I do that? Let's read it again. The mechanism of inspiration involves an extraordinary faculty of desire and will to know and to receive in a certain area, accompanied by the ability to be open and trust your intuition. Probably because it mentioned intuition, I assume. Wanting something and then be inspired by our intuition. Okay, can you tell me how each of the rays red through violet would appear in a perfectly balanced, undistorted entity? We cannot tell you this, for each balance is perfect and each unique. We do not mean to be obscure. Okay. But you are. No. They can't, like, they're saying that everybody's perfect the way they are, and each is unique. But that's not really true. Okay. Let us offer an example. So the example is going to be Carla. In a particular entity, let us use this instrument, Carla. The rays may be viewed as extremely even, red, orange, yellow. The green ray is extremely bright. This is, shall we say, balanced by a dimmer indigo. Between these two, the points of balance reside. The blue ray of the communicator sparkling in strength above the ordinary. In the violet ray, we see this unique spectrograph. At the same time, the pure violet surrounding the whole. This in turn surrounded by that which mixes the red and violet ray, indicating the integration of mind, body, and spirit. This surround in turn by the vibratory pattern of the entity's true density. This surrounded in turn by the vibratory pattern of this entity's true density. So, does that mean like everybody has this? Is that what your aura is? Your aura is the mixing of the red and violet, and then it's like shows the whole vibratory pattern. Like then that's also surrounded by the vibratory pattern that shows our true density. And that higher beings than us can read the aura to know what density we are. I mean, people read auras, but it's usually like emotions and, you know, stuff like that. But are we just picking up on like little bits of things that because it's the true, you know what I'm saying? Okay, this description has been seen to be both unbalanced and in perfect balance. The latter suggests understanding is extremely helpful in dealing with other selves. The ability to feel blockages is useful only to the healer. I put a star next to that because I do feel blockages. Like I'm able to feel blockages in myself and in others. So I guess that means I'm a healer. But I feel like everybody can be a healer, really. So, I don't know. Let's not go down that rabbit hole right now. All right, there is not properly a tiny fraction of judgment when viewing a balance in colors. So nobody's judging anybody based on their overall balance of chakras and whatnot. Of course, when we see many of the energy plexi weakened and blocked, we may understand that an entity has not yet grasped the baton and began the race. Meaning they haven't started figuring out stuff about their spirituality yet. Or they haven't started working on moving their polarity one way or the other. However, the potentials are always there. All the rays fully balanced are there and waiting to be activated. Good to know. No matter how jacked up stuff is, you can always make it balanced. Perhaps another way to address this is in the fully potentiated entity, the rays mount one upon the other with equal vibratory brilliance and scintillating sheen until the surrounding color is white. This is what you may call potentiated balance and third density. Okay, so let's back it up a little bit here. So in the fully potentiated entity, the rays basically build up one upon the other until they make white. Because white light broken down is all the colors of the rainbow. I just got it. I read this session like probably a couple weeks ago, and I didn't get it until I said it out loud. Like I just taught my students this at school because they just learned color this week. Oh, it makes me so happy when things, synchronicities. If you didn't see my short about synchronicities, you should go watch it. They are not coincidences. I just taught my students at school color this week. They learned about color and how color works, and they learned about light and how light broken down through a prism or rain or water breaks down into the colors of the rainbow, and that's what the rainbow is. And our chakras work exactly the same way. They're all the colors of the rainbow. And if you build them up in the proper balance, guess what your aura is? It's white. Scintillating sheen of white, no less. Oh, how exciting. I feel like I understand the chakra thing so much better now because I already knew all about color. I'm an artist. I've been teaching that for years. I've been learning about it and teaching it for years. And it has taken me a long time to realize that chakras are the same exact thing. Because we're made up of light. We're light beings. Is it possible for a third density planet to form a social memory complex which operates in third density? That's a weird question, John, but okay. It's possible only in the latter or the seventh portion of such density when entities are harmoniously readying for graduation. So only when they're just ready to go to fourth density. Can you give me an example of a planet of this nature, both a third density service to others type and a third density service level of this type of attainment conditions? As far as we are aware, there are no negatively oriented third density social memory complexes. Positively oriented social memory complexes of third density are not unheard of, but quite rare. However, an entity from the star Sirius's planetary body has approached this planetary body twice. This entity is in the late third density and is part of a third density memory complex. This has been referred to in the previous material, which was in session 8.21/22. Maybe we'll go back and look at it in a second. The social memory complex is properly a fourth density phenomenon. So, there's a lot of talk about stuff being in Sirius, around Sirius. Like, people think they're starred seeds from Sirius. So, clearly there's stuff happening around Sirius. So let's go back and look. It was in session 8. Question 21, 22. Who are they talking about here? Okay. 21, 22. Oh. Okay. I wrote it down already. Okay, so back in session 8, it was Don asked about an alien abduction of a man named Charlie Hickson, which took place in Passalaqua, which I think is Alabama, if I remember correctly. The entities that picked up Charlie Hickson in 1973 were from the star Sirius, from the galaxy Sirius. Okay, yes. Okay, it gets really interesting now. All right, so they've approached becoming a social memory complex twice. Twice, they said. I was wondering if that particular social memory complex from the star Sirius evolved from trees. Let's remember that second density entities on Earth that can become third density entities, one of which is trees. So Don had already started figuring this out. How in the world he figured that out, I don't know. Ross says this approaches correctness. The second density vegetation forms which graduated into the third density upon this planet, bearing the name of the dog, which Sirius is called the dog star. We're close to the tree as you know it. So they're like freaking Ents. You guys know Ents from Lord of the Rings? I'm sure they don't look like Ents, but that's all I could think of like the whole time I was reading this. Okay. All right, so let's take a little side trip here and revisit the Charlie Hickson Pasalacqua alien abduction. So it wasn't just him, it was another kid. It was a kid that was with him too, like a young man. It happened in Pasalacqua, 1973, an alien abduction, and they went in to see his experiences of war. That's why they took him and this other kid. And the rest of this session, the rest of this part is going to explain that some more. But what I looked up the Charlie Hickson alien abduction. They call it the Pasalacqua abduction, I believe. It's Charlie Hickson and somebody else. Calvin Parker. There we go. So they saw blue lights in an oval ship. They were conscious but paralyzed. And 3 entities with robotic slit mouths and crab-like pinchers listened. So that's what they explained. They're taken on aboard this oval ship that had blue lights. They knew it was happening, but they couldn't move. And 3 entities that sound really terrifyingly scary looking with crab-like pinchers and robot slit mouths. So there's an audio recording of Charlie Hickson and Calvin Parker talking to each other about what happened to them. And it's really heartbreaking because you can tell that they were both really scared and they really felt like no one was going to believe them. So, one of the things that Hickson said was, you can't make people believe it. Can't make people believe it. And I think he said it a couple of times, and it was just kind of heart-wrenching for me. Like, they had this absolutely insane, crazy thing happen to them. And they just had to live with it. And, it seems like these particular entities were not trying to harm them in any way, but the way that they went about it was terrifying for the people, the humans involved. Okay, let's keep going. All right. Dawn says, I was also wondering if, since action of a bellicose nature is an impossible as far as I understand for vegetation, plants aren't going to war with each other, would not they have the advantage as they moved into third density from second as to not carry a racial memory of a bellicose nature and therefore develop a more harmonious society and accelerate their evolution in this nature? Correct. They weren't fighting with each other because they're freaking tree people or something of that equivalent. However, to become balanced and begin to polarize properly, it is then necessary to investigate moments of all kinds of especially bellicosity. So that's why they wanted to come, and they picked up Charlie Hickson because he had been in war. He had experienced war. He had been a soldier in war. I'm assuming then that their investigations of bellicosity were primarily the type that were extracted from Hickson's memory rather than warfare among themselves. Correct? Correct. Entities of this heritage would find it nearly impossible to fight. Indeed, their studies of movements of all kinds is their form of meditation due to the fact that their activity is upon the level of what you might call meditation, and thus must be balanced just as your entities need constant movements of meditation to balance your activities. So they're having to do a lot of work through meditation because of the type of entity that they are. All right, Dawn says, this is an important point for us in understanding the balancing aspect of meditation, since we have here its antithesis in another type of evolution. These entities moved, as we're told by Charlie Hickson, without moving their legs. I'm assuming that they use a principle that is somewhat similar to the principle of movement of your crystal bells in moving their physical vehicles. Is that correct? It's partly correct. Now, I'm not sure what they're talking about, the crystal bells and the physical vehicle. I don't know what they're talking about there. Maybe they mentioned it earlier on. I can't remember. I'm just assuming that their method of movement is not a function of a mechanical leverage such as ours, but a direct function of the mind somehow connected with the magnetic action of the planet. This is largely correct. It is an electromagnetic phenomenon which is controlled by thought impulses of a weak electrical nature. So they don't move like our limbs, arms and legs move through joints and muscles, etc. They're not moving like that. They're using their minds through electrical phenomena connected to the planet to move. Was their craft visible to? Would it have been visible to anyone of our density on our planet who might have seen it or might have been in that area at that time? Is it a third density material, the same as the chair or anything we have? He's asking, was it like a thought form ship, or was it a real made out of stuff ship? And it was a real made out of stuff ship, because Ross says correct. Could you give me some idea of what conditions are like on a fourth density negative or self-service planet? The graduation into fourth density negative is achieved by those beings who have consciously contacted intelligent affinity through the use of red, orange, and yellow rays of energy. Therefore, the planetary conditions of fourth density negative include the constant alignment and realignment of entities in efforts to form the dominant patterns of combined energy. The early fourth density is one of the most intensive struggle. When the order of authority has been established and all have fought until convinced that each is in the proper placement for power structure, the social memory complex begins. Always the fourth density effects of telepathy and the my wash machine has towels in it and it's making a lot of noise. I apologize. Let's start this paragraph over again. In the early fourth density is one of the most intensive struggle. When the order of authority has established and all have fought until convinced that each is in the proper placement of power structure, the social memory complex begins. And you see I wrote, So they're supposed to be harmonious. But I guess if you're a service to self, you can't be harmonious. So they're having to put everybody in their proper place. And they have to fight it out. Always the fourth density effects of telepathy and the transparency of thought are attempted to be used for the sake of those of the apex of the power structure. So, they can all read each other's thoughts and they know what each other's thinking because they're all harmoniously intertwined. But only for the benefit of the people at the top of the pyramid there. This is often quite damaging to the further polarization of fourth density negative entities. For the further negative polarization can only come about through group effort. As the fourth density entities manage to combine, they then polarize through such services to self as those offered by the Crusaders of Orion. Let's read that again. Okay. It's often damaging to the further polarization of fourth density negative entities because in order to further polarize, they have to work together as a group. And as the fourth density entities manage to combine, they then polarize through services to self as offered by the Crusaders of Orion. Okay. So I guess the Orion group has to come in and help them move along, because it makes it real hard to work as a group if you're only trying to work for yourself. Duh. Anyway, that was a pretty short session, which is good because when we get to session 41, that video is going to be really long. Session 41 is like crazy long. Okay, so let's review what was talked about today. Dawn and Jim were trying to become the instruments that Carla and Ra nixed it. Dawn wanted to know why nuclear information was given to humans, because we wanted it. Maybe some of it was from the Maldek entities wanting to have a chance to make shit better. Okay. And then we learned about balanced energy centers, and the balanced energy, we'll call it an aura, around a person, and that no matter how blocked up or damaged you are, you can always fix it, because the potential's always there to balance everything out the way it's most beneficial. And that the perfectly balanced person is white. I just am so excited about that, because color, I just love color. I love color. Okay. And then we learned about moving up the chain, like you're almost at fourth density, but not quite. And then we learned about, oh no, we didn't learn about that yet. We learned about that in a little bit. We learned about the entities from a planet around Sirius and the frickin' tree people. And we talked more about the Pasalaqua alien abduction. And then we talked about the graduation up from the negative densities. Okay. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Put your comments, questions, concerns, complaints in the comment section below. Let's make this a true discussion. What do you think about this information? Were you just as excited as I was about color and or ents? Not that they're really ents. But it still made me happy. Anyway, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. There are a lot of videos before this one for the raw discussion. If this is the first one you've come across, you should definitely start at the beginning. And there will be a lot more after this, because even though I'm getting close to the end of this book, there's a whole nother book. See you guys later. Bye-bye.